All right. Welcome, Maddie Alm, to the Self-Employment Success Podcast.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited for today's episode. For those listening, I've known Maddie for about a year now, and I personally think what she does is really fascinating. She is a registered dietitian and does sports nutrition consulting, and is also a professional athlete herself, doing professional running. So I'm just excited for you to share your story, for us to hear all about that. And if you listen to then, she might do some nutrition tips. We'll find out. So tell us a little bit about yourself as well as your business and what it looks like today.
Yeah, so my name's Maddie. I'm in Boulder, Colorado. I grew up in Colorado, just outside of Boulder, and I am a runner, and I started running in high school. I ended up going on to run at the University of Colorado in Boulder. They have a pretty high level cross country team. So I actually walked on and worked my way up from being one of the worst runners on the team to being one of the better ones. And the way I was actually able to do that was through some work I did with a sports dietitian. So once I learned how to fuel myself properly for my sport, I started to get a lot stronger and faster. I stayed healthy. I didn't get injured anymore. And I was able to make it to the national championships where I placed 12th and was able to kind of go on from there and have the opportunity to run professionally after college. So for me, like, learning about nutrition was a game changer, literally, and also kind of gave me that open door to the career path I wanted to take, because I was like, I'm 20 something, I'm in college, and no one has ever told me these things before. Like, why aren't we taught this earlier? Why don't athletes have these resources available to them? And so I kind of wanted to fill in that gap and become a registered dietitian myself and work with runners specifically, because I am one, and because endurance sports as a whole tend to struggle a bit more with fueling compared to other sports. So that was kind of how I ended up where I am today. And I started my sports nutrition consulting business called Fueling Forward, and work with endurance athletes.
That's awesome. So what's really cool about that, the story that I love is, hey, I walked on and I was one of the worst. I appreciate the fact that you just own that.
I was.
And then I'm sure there was also lots of other hard work going on behind the scenes, but
yeah,
the key difference being I changed how I fueled my body, and that dramatically changed the output. And so you are your own proof. You are your own proof of concept with this. And I know that over the last handful of years, nutrition just in society has become a lot bigger of a topic. But I think I still think about, the football players or athletes who work out really hard and push their body really hard and then just eat anything and everything they want in bulk, and it's fine because their metabolisms are huge and they're just burning it all. But it's been interesting talking to you and how you fuel it, not just that you're getting the calories in, but what are the nutrition behind that, and how that's dramatically changes even things like injuries. You just don't think about that. I would never have thought that what you fuel your body with would lessen the chance of injury. And so I just think that's really cool. And Maddie she does run professionally and she'll own it, but she's also pretty humble because she runs with the Olympic team. And so, and those athletes. And so it's very high level professional running, which is awesome. So you chose this field because you saw the benefit of it yourself, and you saw the gap there of, hey, athletes aren't getting this. But as a registered dietitian, you can do that a lot of different ways. That is, you could work, I'm not super familiar with the field, but you can work that in a ton of different fields. What prompted you to do that as your own entrepreneur and as a business, as opposed to working for another sports nutrition or sports consulting business?
Yeah. So the cool thing about being a dietitian is there's a lot of different routes that you can take. I don't think a lot of people aren't familiar with this career field because it is relatively new, but you can work in clinical settings. So you can work in hospitals. To become a dietitian, we have to do a residency program like doctors would do. So we do rotations in different fields. So I did everything from calculating tube feeds in the ICU to, buying snacks at Costco for the soccer team at the college I was working at. So it's pretty fun because there's a lot of things you can do with it. But as I kind of went through this residency program and was working with an NCAA team, I kind of realized that there's a lot of like red tape when it comes to doing the things that I want to do as a dietitian. Usually the programs that make the most money, so like football, basketball, those are going to be the ones that the athletic directors want to prioritize. But in my experience, those really aren't the athletes that need the support and the help. It's more of the, the wrestlers, like the weight dependent sports, the cross country runners who are more prone to eating disorders, or the gymnastics team. And so I kind of realized that the route that I wanted to go was going to be a lot more challenging if I were to go through like a college or a university. Even working with professional teams, there's a lot of, stuff caught up in budget and how you get to spend the budget. And you have to convince the people who have the money that you are a worthy cause to spend it on. And, they'll kind of pick like the gear or whatever over the sports nutrition, because a lot of people don't understand the value of it. So to me, I really wanted to, bring that value myself to the people who were looking for it. And along those lines too, I've kind of seen athletes who've been forced to work with me. Neither of us get much out of it because they're not really wanting to do the things I'm telling them to do. So then I'm not really knowing what's working for them and what's not. So it's just kind of a frustrating cycle. And I think for me, part of the draw of being an entrepreneur is that you're working with people who seek you out and who are paying for your services. So they're going to do the things you ask. And it's so much more enjoyable for everybody, and everyone gets so much more out of it when they're doing the things we talk about doing. They're seeing the results. They're getting excited. I'm excited because I love when, what we talk about helps people. So to me, it just was a lot more fun. That was definitely a big part of it. And then the other part of it was that I wanted to run professionally. And so to do that, the hours that I can actually work are really challenging to fit into any other job. Most employers probably wouldn't be willing to work with my schedule. If I have a workout in the morning, usually I'm gone from 8 to 1 p.m. and I can do calls from 1 to 4. And then a lot of times I have a second run at 5. So I have to kind of fit things in as I can. So that was another reason why I decided to kind of start my own business, because what I wanted to do outside of my business requires such specific hours that I felt like it would be too challenging to find a job that would accommodate that.
That makes so much sense. And obviously you weren't forced into it, but you were sort of like pushed that way of, hey, with the work I want to do, if I were to work with athletes in a traditional setting, not only will there be a lot of red tape for this to get to the specific athletes that I feel like I'm passionate about serving, but also the ones that I am serving will most likely be forced to meet with me, and therefore it's not going to be as productive of an experience. And then lastly, the schedule piece, which I think is one of every entrepreneur's like key things, is like, I want to be able to work when I want, how I want. I don't want to be strapped to a desk 8 to 5 every day. I want to be able to kind of foster the lifestyle I want. And for you, that's your actual passion, which is also sports and running, and which is also a second job for you, and both have to be prioritized. So that makes total sense. I love what you said about the joy of entrepreneurship is people are choosing to work with you, and you kind of also get to choose who you work with. I don't know that I would have articulated that the same way, but in my own experience in financial planning, that was the case. I worked at a corporate firm where they kind of told me who I worked with. I couldn't say no to anybody, and people were assigned to me, and it just was not as fruitful, and stuff didn't get implemented, as opposed to now people are choosing to work with me and I'm choosing to work with them. And it just makes it so much more beneficial both ways. Like, it serves the consumer so much better, and I go home having enjoyed my workday.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. So we're going to jump back into fueling forward, but tell us a little bit more about your running and that piece of it, because they go hand in hand. You're working with athletes, you are an athlete, and you're an athlete beyond just college level. And so tell us a little bit about that and what that looks like.
Yeah. So I run at the professional level, which means that our season is pretty long. We usually start racing for track season if we do indoor, it'll be kind of January, February, but then the outdoor season runs from April through September. And so within that time frame, there's a lot of stuff going on. The goal is typically to run the time standard to run at the US championship race. So that's the equivalent of the Olympic trials. But obviously the Olympic trials only happens once every 4 years. So in the non-Olympic years, it's called like the US championships. So in 2021, because the Olympics got moved to 2021, I competed in the Olympic trials in the 5K. And I placed 12th there, which was really exciting. And so that was kind of a nice reward for, all the work that I've been doing over the past few years. But it's very time consuming. We typically will meet in the mornings to do our training sessions. If we have bigger workout days, obviously it takes longer. We also will lift after our workouts on our workout days. I run about 75 to 80 miles per week, so it's pretty time consuming.
Oh my gosh.
And then, on top of that, I also do some coaching for the high school that I went to in Colorado with the high school cross country and track team. So running is very much a part of my life in pretty much every aspect.
Yeah. I mean, your nutrition business is with runners. You are running at the professional level, which is taking up so much time, and you're coaching it on the side, which is just incredible. So you finish up your residency and you're telling yourself, okay, I'm going to go out and I'm going to start this, and I'm going to launch a consulting business with runners. Where did you start? How did you start? Did you have a program that you created that you walk everyone through? What does that tangibly look like?
Yeah, it's always so funny to me thinking back to when I started this. I can't tell you how little I knew about having a business or doing anything. It's not normally like me to just like jump into something like that. I feel like I'm normally more of like a calculated planning person. And I just was like, I trust that I have these skills that other people don't have, the skills with nutrition and, specifically for endurance athletes. And I have these unique connections in the endurance athlete community in Boulder. Boulder is very well known for the endurance athletes that come out to train here because we're at altitude. And a lot of my teammates are Olympians and very well-known athletes. And so I was very fortunate that they were able to help spread the word about my business very quickly. So it grew a lot faster than I thought it would, which was both good and bad because I don't think I really had the infrastructure in place to support all the influx of athletes that I had. But I did just kind of like take the skills that I had learned about nutrition, counseling, what I knew as an athlete about nutrition, and kind of combine the two into a program that it went well, but I think I wasn't maximizing what I could have been doing with my business in terms of like, what I was charging and how I was structuring things. So I was very much flying by the seat of my pants for the first year or two of my business. I actually started my business in September of 2019. So right before COVID
Oh,
hit.
Great timing.
Yes, which actually ended up helping my business, ironically, because I was kind of forced to learn telehealth and how to do everything virtually. And because of that, it opened the door for me to work with athletes all across the US. And so that actually helped grow my business. And then on top of that, there were a lot of people, now that they weren't going into the office and they were at home, they had more time to devote to things like training for a big marathon or, learning how to cook or do these things that they didn't have time to do before. So I think I'm one of the few people that can say COVID actually helped my business. And it helped me kind of build something that ended up being a lot more sustainable as well.
That's incredible. Truly what a story of, one of the best problems you can have as an entrepreneur is I start a business and it takes off too fast and I don't have the infrastructure, but it is a problem. I mean, when you're like, I've not figured out my pricing. I don't have standardization among like how I do this and everyone's different. That is just a real problem. And then with COVID, so many people struggled in that season. And yet for you, that was almost the perfect storm of great. Now I actually can do this even on a wider depth. I'm already taking off, and now I can even bring on more people because of the telehealth world and being able to meet with athletes all over. So someone signs on with you, what does that look like? Is it ongoing indefinitely? Is it a package deal for X amount of months? Is it totally per person and individualized? What does that look like?
Yeah. So now, thankfully, I've developed a pretty structured approach to everything. It's pretty streamlined. And so the year that I actually decided to work with you as a financial planner, I also decided to hire a business coach because I had not really invested anything back into my business. And I think in my mind, I'm like, okay, if I'm investing in my business, it's something more of like a company that's selling products, like buying a new oven or something. So in my mind, I'm like, well, I don't really have any of these expenses because it's all telehealth. But I realized that there's, just like I want people to reach out to a dietitian for nutrition help instead of Googling everything, I was like, I need to take my own advice and do that when it comes to learning how to track my finances and like learning how to structure my business. So the business coach that I worked with kind of really helped me develop more of like a streamlined program and much better pricing structure. So when I take on athletes now, it's a 3-month coaching program. We meet 4 times over those 3 months, so about every 3 weeks. And I kind of have a way that we progress through it. We kind of start with what they're doing now. We build a fueling plan. If they're training for a marathon or something longer, we talk about how they're going to fuel, during the marathon, leading up to the race. We talk about how to practice that kind of stuff. And then just depending on what their challenges are, like if they don't have time to cook, how can we make sure they're getting the fuel they need within those constraints? So it definitely varies from person to person in terms of what we work on and what we talk about. But that general structure has become a lot more of a flow for me, which is really nice.
That's awesome. And I mean, our businesses are so different, and yet in some ways the consulting world is relatively similar, where I've had to build in like standardization, but every person is so unique that you're like, okay, I have a structure, and then within that structure there's variability, but that structure itself allows me to serve people well, serve people efficiently, and that frees me to be able to scale and do more with it. That's awesome.
Yeah, exactly.
So this business coach, I feel like I've heard that theme among so many entrepreneurs of we were doing it, it was going well, but I got to this point where I was, growing and it was turning into kind of chaos, like spaghetti. Just there's a lot of stuff on the plate, but it's everywhere. I didn't actually mean to do a food analogy with the dietitian.
It works out.
And then they hire a business coach who really helps them kind of organize all that. I guess, what was that like, bringing that person onto your quote unquote team, and, what changes did they encourage you to make? And was that comfortable, uncomfortable? I find, some people love it and other people are like, it's really uncomfortable. They made me like drastically raise my prices, which is scary. Or, so I guess, what was that experience of bringing on a business coach like for you?
I think all the above explains my experience. Definitely, I was hesitant at first. I think a lot of entrepreneurs are similar in that we want to be the ones to build it from the ground up, and kind of like we're the ones who want to do the work. We want to feel like we've done everything ourselves. And I think that's where, like I said earlier, as entrepreneurs, we should also appreciate the idea that people want our expertise and want to reach out for the help that we can provide. So again, taking our own advice and being like, okay, I am not a business professional. I don't know anything about this. I can hire somebody else who is, and they can help me kind of fill in the gaps of knowledge that I have and really take what I am envisioning and make it what I want it to be. So once I finally took that step and admitted that I needed help and took that on, I kind of went through the same thing. I definitely was way undercharging. The prices that she suggested that I come out with, I was like, you have got to be kidding me. That is insane. That is so much more. Like, no one's going to pay this. And she had a good point to me, which is like my, I forget what the term was that she used, but the rate of people that say yes to work with me was about 100%. She was like, a good rate is about 30% if your prices are done correctly. And so she was like, the fact that everyone who reaches out says they will work with you shows you that you're probably not charging enough, and then you're going to end up overworked, and together that's going to really quickly lead me to burnout. which I was kind of experiencing. I was getting very stressed. I felt like I had no organization. I felt like I couldn't provide the services to the degree that I wanted to. So drastically raised my prices, picked how many clients per month was reasonable for me. So we kind of did that by working backwards from like, what are the times I have in a day? How many client spots? So if my calls are 45 minutes, how many client spots per day is realistic? Kind of extrapolating that into client spots per month. And that really helped me kind of narrow down, okay, here's how many people it's realistic to take on. And then from there, I kind of developed an application. So that was something else that was really nice, was to kind of automate the screening process prior to them getting to me. Before that, I was just taking on like anyone and everyone. Some people were a good fit, some people weren't. And so that was also stressful for me because there were some people I really enjoyed and then, you know, some people that were more challenging. So screening who I'm working with really created the environment that I was envisioning, right? I could pick people that I wanted to work with just as much as they wanted to work with me. And so that made each day that I was working way more enjoyable because I looked forward to every call and kind of seeing where people were. So implementing all that stuff took time and was intimidating to me because I did have to learn how to do like new things with technology that I didn't do before and raise my prices to a level that I was like, no one's going to pay this. But even with this drastic price increase, I still have close to 100% rate. So I'm trying to still workshop that.
Raise those prices even higher. Come on.
Yeah. But it definitely was an eye-opening experience. Like when you bring someone on who knows what business, like what your field can handle in terms of pricing structure and things like that. It definitely changed everything about my business for the better. So it was a great experience overall. Definitely some uncomfortable parts to it, but I also think as entrepreneurs, we're used to that because starting a business as a whole is an uncomfortable experience. So yeah, it was very positive overall.
I love that. I mean, as an entrepreneur myself, I'm like, I got to go get myself a business. But
yeah,
I think like there's so many good lessons learned there. And I love how like your spirit of teachability and humility of like, I have an expertise and I think people should pay me for it. And therefore I should be paying people for their expertise. And to even just say, you know, this is uncomfortable, but I'm going to take the leap and I'm going to do it. And, you know, in seeing that, you know, because I work with you, have seen that really drastically improve the quality of the business from a financial health. I obviously say from a financial health perspective, but also, like you said, getting to work with people by the time they get to you, they're already a good fit. You've already kind of weeded out a lot of the fat. And so many businesses, when you launch as an entrepreneur, you're like, will this work? So you're just taking on anybody who can fog a mirror. And a lot of them are not good fits. And then you end up undercharging. And like you said, getting to a place of burnout, whether it's from volume, because you have to bring on so many people to create the income you desire, or burnout because the people are not good fits. And so it's just not enjoyable. So I love that business coach was able to foster that for your business. And I specifically love the fact that you were teachable enough to make that happen with my clients and with, you know, people who I'm sure like business consultants. I look for, this is terrible, I look for fat people. So faithful, available, and teachable.
There you go.
People who are faithful and like are dedicated to the work you're doing, who are available, they're going to be responsive, they're going to schedule the meetings, and who are teachable and want to actually implement it. And not only do you want that from your clients, it sounds like you were that way with your business coach, and now you're reaping the fruit of that, which is awesome.
Exactly. And I think for me too, a big part of like the success I was able to have from that was I was picking people that were good fits for me as well. So like you, for example, you work with small business owners and entrepreneurs. And so I knew I didn't want to pick a financial planner that like knows nothing about small businesses.
Who only works with federal employees.
Yeah, exactly. And like my business coach, she is a dietitian actually. So she knows like the world of dietetics and how things work and how to structure things. If I had picked a business coach who's for like selling products, they maybe wouldn't have been able to help me to the same degree. So just like I'm trying to pick the clients that are a good fit for me, I'm also trying to pick people to help build my business that know the world that I'm in and are a good fit for me as well. And so like working with you and working with her has been a huge game changer. And I highly recommend anyone who's on the fence about reaching out to someone like yourself or a business coach, just do it. It definitely, you will pay that off and then some.
And I mean, yeah, if you're listening, that's not an ad for me, but that's just a good principle.
I'll say
like
it is.
the investment in your business, while it's scary to pay for, really like will pay yourself tenfold. And I think that's
Yes.
a fear of a lot of entrepreneurs is, how much do I spend on investing into my business versus bootstrapping it? And there's a balance there. I mean, I know people who will like pay and pay and pay to create systems, and they're not actually getting anybody in the door to pay them. So there is a balance there, but I just want to highlight this idea because it's so important. Like, invest in your business. It will pay dividends for you.
Yes. And I was by no means like a high earning business, but I still was able to take, some of what I was making and put it back in, and was able to like double what I was earning through my business within a year or two. So again, highly recommend.
Yeah, which is awesome. So what's the future of your business hold? Where are you hoping to take it? I know you've got a lot of irons in the fire with professional running and your business. So what direction are you heading?
Yeah. So really with running, like you go in Olympic cycles. So the next Olympic cycle is 2024. For me, I kind of see that as the year after that Olympic cycle that I kind of take a step back from running. So everything I'm doing with my business right now, I want to be working towards setting myself up to have that once I'm done running. And I know right now my running is a big feeder into my business because I get, social media, things like that. I get a lot of exposure as a runner that also helps with my business. So my goal in the next year or so is to really kind of take advantage of this end of my running career and propel my business into a place where it's sustainable. And then, moving forward, as I go on to build a family and things like that, I can kind of pick and choose when I'm working. I have that flexibility. I can really create the life that I want for myself. And, on those really hard days of working for yourself and being an entrepreneur, I just try to remember that I would pick a hard day as an entrepreneur over a hard day at a 9-to-5 job where I don't get to pick what I'm doing or who I'm working with. So yeah, I think really just trying to create a sustainable business that continues to help athletes and reaches the people that I'm trying to reach to make a difference.
I love that. I mean, I just get excited about that for you. And I love the thought of like a hard day as an entrepreneur is, better than a hard day as a 9-to-5. And, even yesterday I went home and was telling my wife, like, yeah, today was just sort of dull. It felt like work. And then I was struck by the fact that like, I'm grateful that that's not every day. Like today was a hard day, but is not the norm. Like typically it's so much more creative and fun and passionate. So what surprised you the most about your journey into entrepreneurship?
Honestly, I'm surprised how much I've enjoyed it. I think I definitely am like more of a high stress person. And so I was like, oh my gosh, I'm just going to be chronically stressed. But I actually feel the opposite. And now that I've had this experience, like getting to pick and choose my hours and getting to have this life balance, I've kind of realized how important that is to me, to be able to like go for a run at 9 a.m, come back and kind of like work at my own pace and, take Fridays off of meetings and use that as an admin day. Or, if I want to travel, I can schedule that in and plan for that. So I've just realized like there's so much more to life than work for me. And even as an entrepreneur, that sounds, counterintuitive because a lot of entrepreneurs are like, my work is my life. And it is to some degree, but I've realized how important that life balance is. And if you don't want to have that burnout experience in your career, I think it's so important that you kind of create a well-rounded life. And for me, the best way to do that is by being an entrepreneur. So I've really enjoyed the whole experience. I've learned so much along the way. And, I think if anyone's on the fence about being an entrepreneur, you're never going to feel 100% ready to do it. I never did, but I just started anyways and was able to kind of learn and pick up the pieces as I went and build something today that I'm really proud of.
I love that. What was the low point for you? Was there a low point?
Yeah, I mean, the low point was when during like, honestly, the pandemic as a whole was a low point for everybody, but I had to live at home because I was not making enough money to pay rent in Boulder. I was working a second job that I really didn't like. It was just like that time period where I'm like, is this ever going to be what I want it to be? And I definitely had many moments where I was like, this isn't worth it. I should just stop. I should look for a job, and I should just like find something that's salaried, because there is a lot of uncertainty in being an entrepreneur, especially when you're first starting. You don't have a salary guaranteed. You don't have benefits. Like, there's a lot of stuff and security that you don't get as an entrepreneur. And so that was really stressful to me. And that all kind of came to a head like during the pandemic, when I was like, I just don't think this seems like it's going to be sustainable. Like, am I being like irresponsible, basically choosing this as a career path? And especially people that are, I think my age, my generation, our parents were very much like the 9-to-5 people. And so you grew up in a household where it's like, this is how life works. You go get a 9-to-5, you earn your money, that's it. And so, I didn't have an example really of how this is done or that it would work out or be okay. And my parents have been very supportive, which is really great. But yeah, I think it's just been, it was stressful at times, feeling that insecurity or feeling that doubt or that fear. But just, pushing through it and realizing like, you can't build, what's that saying? You can't build Rome overnight, or whatever that saying is.
Rome wasn't built in a day.
Rome wasn't built overnight. Exactly. No entrepreneur's business was built overnight. So, sticking with it, finding ways to take the little wins and learn from the losses and just kind of roll with the punches. Took me some time, because that's not inherently how I am, but I got there, and I'm very happy I stuck it out.
That's awesome. I mean, that is the entrepreneur journey. And you are the like epitome of that, of I saw a need, I went for it. It was really hard. I had to make sacrifices, moving home, getting a second job. I had all of what I personally call it head trash. They're like, will this ever work?
Yes.
Will anybody pay me? Just all the things that tell you shouldn't be doing this. You're being irresponsible. It's not going to work. And to keep fighting it out is the entrepreneur journey, to say like, I'm just not giving up on this. We're just going to keep doing it. And then to emerge and be like, wow, okay, this is working. And now I have the freedom. Now I've got the income. Now I'm like getting the clients that I really love. Now they're starting to come to me, that is, such a thrilling and rewarding experience. I love that. This is a podcast about success. But the word success means different things to different people. So how would you define success for yourself, and how will you know when you've achieved it?
Yeah, it's funny. I've been asked this questions on podcasts related to like running. And I think for me, as a runner, as an entrepreneur, success is kind of synonymous with just working my hardest. And if I can end my day or, my running career or whatever, and know that I did everything I could to set myself up to create what I wanted, even if it doesn't take off, I can feel at peace and feel successful knowing that I put myself out there. I worked my hardest. I tried my hardest, obviously learned things along the way, maybe was successful, in terms of making it making it to the Olympics, or, making it as an entrepreneur. Maybe I wasn't, but it's something that I would not feel good about if I had stepped away from before I knew that I had tried everything. So to me, success is just in the journey of, going for it and not necessarily in the outcome at the end.
I love that. And that's not a response I get very often.
Oh, really?
Well, just so much of the definition of success is like, once I get to this place. And so often it's not, once I make X amount of money, because everyone's going kind of like, money will never be the thing that makes you feel like you have enough. But I love that your definition of success is not in the end result, but in the, how do I treat the journey? How did I finish? Did I finish well? Did I perform well? More so than did I achieve a certain output?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so I'm curious, what nutrition tips would you give to entrepreneurs?
Yeah. So I have like a few main tips that I give to people who are super busy with their work life. I think the first one is planning ahead. A big barrier for, people like entrepreneurs is that they are so busy by the time they get home, there's nothing in the fridge. They don't have anything to cook, so they have to eat out. Not only is that not financially sustainable, right? But it also is not, as healthy for us. So the biggest thing I would say is like pick your slowest day of the week, sit down for 10 minutes, plan out which nights make the most sense for you to cook. So for me, it's usually like anywhere from 2 to 4 nights a week. Then I'll pick a couple of recipes and I'll kind of write down a few ideas for like breakfast, lunches, and dinners and snacks in addition to the dinner recipes. I'll kind of use that to build my grocery list, and then I'll just go to the store one time a week. So, that's a big thing is like, if you go once a week, you're saving yourself all that other time. And then you have kind of a rough plan so that when you do get home at 8 p.m. from a busy, long day, you have leftovers ready to go, or you know exactly what you're making. So it kind of takes that decision out of it. So that's the first one. The second one is actually snacks are good. I think a lot of people get told that they should not be snacking or that snacking is bad. And I think what they associate with snacking is like getting so hungry that it's an hour before dinner, so they don't want to eat anything, but they find themselves standing in the pantry eating a bag of chips. And that's obviously
literally me last night.
Yeah, there you go. Right. Like that's not the kind of snacking we're looking for. Eating more consistently throughout the day. So adding in snacks can actually help with energy levels, productivity, focus. So when you go for that, 3:00 cup of coffee, that's usually a sign you should probably have a snack instead. So picking something with carbs and protein, like pretzels and cheese stick, apple and peanut butter, yogurt and fruit, that kind of thing, to have, throughout the day, trying to eat about every 4 hours can really help keep your energy up, keep you from getting like hangry or losing focus, and can definitely help you have a more successful work day as a whole.
That's incredible. And I feel like you just spoke exactly to my lifestyle, and the fact that like, and I'm so lucky. My wife is incredible and keeps me sustained. But for the most part, I mean, like, we go to the grocery store, we do like a big trip, and then throughout the week, we're just running for random things here and there. And she's like, I have a snack drawer in my office, and she's like stocking it because she's like, you just will forget to eat, or you just won't plan ahead. Or, I mean,
exactly.
As embarrassing as it is today, for lunch, I just brought a bag of popcorn because I was like, just grabbing and going. I've never
protein
planned
in there, Leland.
I know. So I'm like, okay, all right, plan ahead, get the protein and freedom to snack.
Yes, exactly. And I always tell people, like, you can't pour from an empty cup. So if you're not taking care of yourself, of your body, then how can you show up for yourself, for your clients, your employees at work, right? So definitely it starts with the little things like eating well, eating consistently, and it kind of branches out and affects all different aspects of your life. So it's worth it.
That's awesome. Well, I have loved this episode, and you are just like such a fun person, with such a fascinating career, and like the epitome of the entrepreneurial spirit. And so thank you so much for being on the Self-Employment Success Podcast.
Thank you for having me. This is so fun.
Yeah.